His name is Daniel Matthews. He is 42 years old, and the woman he spent 17 years building a life with just handed him divorce papers across the dining table of their home in Charlotte, North Carolina, United States, exactly 9 days after she became CEO of Highland Tech Solutions. 9 days. That was how long it took for Chloe to decide their marriage wasn't worth keeping now that she had the corner office. Daniel sat there, staring at the manila envelope like it might dissolve if he looked hard enough. His hands were steady, but his mind was racing. Chloe stood by the kitchen counter, her arms crossed, wearing that charcoal Armani suit she'd bought to celebrate the promotion. Her expression was cold, clinical, like she was terminating an underperforming employee rather than ending a marriage. "I've already spoken with my attorney," she said, her voice devoid of warmth. "This doesn't need to be complicated. You'll get what's fair." Fair. The word tasted bitter in Daniel's mouth. He'd been a mid-level project manager at a marketing firm, pulling in around $75,000 a year while she climbed the corporate ladder. He'd been the one who stayed home when their daughter Nancy was sick. He'd been the one who organized the dinner parties for her executives, who moved across 2 states for her promotions, who put his own career advancement on hold so she could shine. "When did you decide?" Daniel asked quietly. "When did you decide I wasn't enough anymore?" Chloe's jaw tightened. "Don't make this emotional, Daniel. We've grown apart. I need someone who matches my ambition, my lifestyle. You've been comfortable being mediocre." The word hit him like a physical blow. Mediocre. "I supported everything you did," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Every late night, every weekend conference, every relocation." "And I'm grateful," Chloe replied, but her tone suggested she was anything but. "But gratitude isn't love, Daniel. Sign the papers. My attorney will be in touch about the settlement." She walked out of the room, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor like gunshots. Daniel heard her car start in the driveway moments later. She didn't even live here anymore. She'd already moved into a luxury apartment downtown, the kind with a doorman and a view of the city skyline. What Chloe didn't know was that Daniel had something she desperately needed, something worth far more than the house, the cars, or anything else she thought she was walking away with. And when she found out, it would be too late. As we go on with this story of cold-blooded betrayal, shocking revelations, and justice against the arrogant, I want you to do something for me. I want you to kindly subscribe to this channel and like this video. There are brand new stories here every day, and each story is interesting and would teach very valuable lessons. Also, tell me in the comment, what is that unique thing about the city where you are watching from? Is it a city like Charlotte from the United States, or in Canada, or the United Kingdom? Tell me, I'd be happy to know. The divorce papers sat on the kitchen table for 3 days while Daniel processed what was happening. Nancy, their 15-year-old daughter, was staying with Chloe at the new apartment. Chloe's choice, not his. She'd told Nancy that Daddy needed some space to think, which was a polite way of saying she was already poisoning their daughter against him. Daniel went to work each day at Morrison Marketing Group, sitting in his cubicle, attending meetings, pretending everything was normal. His colleagues didn't know. His family didn't know. Only his best friend Davis, who worked in IT at the same company, had any idea what was happening. "Man, you need to fight this," Davis said over lunch on Thursday. They were sitting in a sandwich shop 2 blocks from the office, the November rain pattering against the windows. "Chloe's making $600,000 a year now as CEO. You're entitled to alimony, for God's sake." Daniel shook his head. "It's not about the money." "The hell it isn't," Davis insisted. "You gave up promotions for her. You turned down that senior director position in Boston because she didn't want to move again. You've been the supporting actor in her movie for 17 years, and now she's cutting you out like you never mattered." Davis was right, but Daniel couldn't explain what he was really thinking about. He couldn't tell anyone yet, not until he was certain. That evening, Daniel drove to a storage unit facility on the outskirts of Charlotte. Unit 247. He'd been renting it for 6 years, paying the monthly fee of $95 from a separate bank account Chloe never knew about. Inside were filing cabinets, hard drives, and documents that represented 5 years of work. Work that Chloe was about to claim as her own. The truth was more complicated than Chloe's simple narrative of growing apart. 6 months ago, Daniel had started noticing things. Small things at first. Chloe coming home later than usual, but her calendar showed meetings that should have ended hours earlier. New lingerie in her drawer, La Perla, expensive stuff that she never wore around him. Perfume that wasn't hers lingering in her car. Daniel wasn't the jealous type, but he wasn't stupid either. He'd hired a private investigator, a woman named Sarah Chen, who operated out of a modest office in South Charlotte. Sarah charged him $3,000 for 2 weeks of surveillance. The photos she provided were damning. Chloe with a man Daniel didn't recognize, having intimate dinners at restaurants across the city, entering hotel rooms at the Ritz-Carlton. The man was younger, maybe mid-30s, with the kind of polished look that screamed money and arrogance. Sarah had identified him. Travis Beckman, the newly appointed chief financial officer at Highland Tech Solutions. He joined the company 8 months ago. Chloe and Travis had been having an affair for at least 5 months, probably longer. And now that Chloe had secured the CEO position, she was cleaning house, starting with her mediocre husband. But here's what Chloe didn't know, what she couldn't possibly know. Daniel Matthews wasn't just a project manager at a marketing firm. For the past 5 years, he'd been working on something else, something revolutionary. It started innocently enough. Daniel had always been interested in software development, even though his degree was in business administration. In his spare time, he taught himself programming languages, Python, JavaScript, C++. He joined online communities, contributed to open source projects, learned from developers around the world. 3 years ago, he had an idea. The marketing firm he worked for struggled with data analytics, specifically understanding customer behavior patterns across multiple platforms. The existing software solutions were clunky, expensive, and required extensive training. Daniel started building his own tool, just as a side project, something that could integrate data from social media, email campaigns, web analytics, and purchase history into a single intuitive dashboard. He worked on it late at night after Chloe was asleep, on weekends when she was at corporate retreats, during his lunch breaks at work. He called it Streamline AI. The tool was good, better than good. Daniel showed it to Davis, who immediately recognized its potential. Davis introduced him to a patent attorney named Jennifer Walsh, who worked out of Raleigh, North Carolina, United States. Jennifer was thorough, professional, and most importantly, discreet. "This is brilliant," Jennifer had told him during their first meeting, her eyes scanning through the documentation. "The algorithm you've developed for predictive customer behavior, I've never seen anything quite like it. Have you shown this to anyone?" "Just my friend Davis," Daniel had replied. "And now you." "Good. Keep it that way until we have the patent secured. File for provisional protection immediately." That was 2.5 years ago. The full patent was granted 14 months ago, in Daniel's name only. He'd funded the entire development himself on his own time, using his own equipment. Chloe had no legal claim to it whatsoever. She didn't even know it existed. On Friday evening, Daniel received a text from Nancy. It was brief, typical teenage communication. "Can we talk? Mom's being weird." They met at a coffee shop near Nancy's high school, a local place called Bean Theory that Nancy loved for their caramel macchiatos. She looked tired, her long brown hair pulled into a messy ponytail. Her eyes shadowed with worry that no 15-year-old should carry. "Dad, what's really happening?" Nancy asked once they'd settled into a corner booth. "Mom says you two are divorcing because you want different things, but that sounds like adult code for something else." Daniel had prepared for this conversation, but actually having it was harder than he'd imagined. "Your mom and I are going through a difficult time," he said carefully. "But I want you to know that none of this is your fault, and I love you more than anything in this world." "Is she seeing someone else?" Nancy asked bluntly. The question caught Daniel off guard. "Why would you ask that?" "Because she's always on her phone now, smiling at messages. And this guy Travis from her work keeps calling the apartment. She takes the calls in her bedroom with the door closed." Nancy's eyes were sharp, perceptive. She was too smart for her own good sometimes. "I'm not a child, Dad. I can see what's happening." Daniel felt a surge of anger at Chloe for putting Nancy in this position. "Your mother is making choices right now that I don't agree with," he said slowly. But whatever happens between us, you'll always have both of your parents. Will I? Nancy challenged, because it feels like she's already building a new life without us. Without you, definitely. Maybe without me, too. That weekend, Daniel made a decision. He couldn't control what Chloe was doing, but he could control his response. He scheduled a meeting for Monday morning with Mark Doherty, CEO of Techstream Innovations, a major competitor of Highland Tech Solutions based in Atlanta, Georgia, United States. Mark had reached out to Daniel 8 months ago through LinkedIn after seeing some of his contributions to open source projects. They'd had several conversations about the software industry, about innovation, about the future of data analytics. Mark didn't know about Streamline AI yet, but he was about to. Sunday night, Daniel finally signed the divorce papers. He didn't contest anything. Chloe could have the house in Charlotte, the 4-bedroom colonial they'd bought 6 years ago for $450,000, now worth around $600,000. She could have the furniture, the cars, most of their savings. He asked for only 3 things: joint custody of Nancy, his personal belongings, and the contents of Storage Unit 247. Chloe's attorney called it surprisingly reasonable in an email to Daniel's lawyer. What they didn't understand was that Daniel wasn't being reasonable. He was being strategic. Monday morning arrived with the kind of crisp autumn cold that made your breath fog in the air. Daniel drove to the airport, caught a flight to Atlanta, and arrived at Techstream Innovations headquarters by 11. The building was impressive: glass and steel, modern design, the kind of place that screamed innovation and success. Mark Doherty was exactly as Daniel remembered from their video calls. Early 50s, gray hair, sharp eyes that missed nothing. They met in a private conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Atlanta skyline. "Daniel, good to see you in person," Mark said, shaking his hand firmly. "You mentioned you had something interesting to show me?" Daniel opened his laptop and pulled up Streamline AI. For the next hour, he walked Mark through the software's capabilities, the predictive algorithms, the seamless integration across platforms, the user-friendly interface that required minimal training, the real-time analytics that could identify customer behavior patterns within seconds. Mark leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. "This is exactly what we've been looking for," he said finally. "Our analytics division has been trying to develop something similar for 18 months. We've spent close to $2 million and haven't gotten anywhere near this level of sophistication." "I have a full patent," Daniel said, sliding the documentation across the table. "Everything is protected. The source code, the algorithms, the user interface design." Mark studied the papers, then looked up at Daniel with new respect. "What are you looking for? A sale? A licensing deal? Partnership?" Daniel had thought about this carefully. "I want a position as Director of Analytics Innovation at Techstream, a salary of $250,000 per year, and I want Techstream to acquire Streamline AI for $3 million in company stock, with performance bonuses if the product exceeds revenue targets." It was bold, audacious even, but Daniel knew the value of what he'd created. Mark didn't hesitate. "Done. I'll have our attorneys draw up the contracts by end of day Wednesday." Daniel flew back to Charlotte that evening, his mind spinning with the implications of what he'd just set in motion. Chloe thought she'd left behind a mediocre project manager with nothing to offer. She had no idea that her soon-to-be ex-husband had just secured a position that would make him one of Techstream's key executives. But that wasn't the best part. The best part was what he learned from Mark during their lunch conversation. Highland Tech Solutions is in trouble, Mark had confided over seafood at a downtown Atlanta restaurant. Their board is pushing Chloe hard to improve their analytics capabilities. They're losing ground to us in the market, and their current systems are outdated. Word is, Chloe promised the board she'd have a solution implemented within 6 months. If she doesn't deliver, they'll replace her. Chloe needed exactly what Daniel had created, and she had no idea it existed. They had no idea what was coming. The contracts from Techstream Innovations arrived on Wednesday, just as Mark had promised. Daniel reviewed them with his attorney, a sharp woman named Patricia Gomez, who operated out of a small practice in downtown Charlotte. Patricia had handled his divorce paperwork and came highly recommended by Davis. "This is incredible, Daniel. Patricia said, flipping through the pages. 3 million in stock, plus salary, plus performance bonuses. You've essentially made yourself financially independent overnight. Sign it, Daniel said. I want everything finalized before the divorce is complete. Patricia raised an eyebrow. The divorce will be final in about 45 days, assuming Chloe doesn't contest anything. The TechStream contract can be executed immediately. But Daniel, you should know, any assets acquired before the divorce is finalized could technically be considered marital property. Not this, Daniel replied. Streamline AI was developed entirely by me, on my time, with my resources, before any divorce proceedings began. Chloe has no claim to it. Besides, she signed away any claims to my intellectual property in the initial agreement. Patricia smiled. You've been planning this. No, Daniel said honestly. I've been protecting myself. There's a difference. Daniel's first day at TechStream Innovations was Monday, December 2nd. He gave 2 weeks' notice at Morrison Marketing Group, citing a career opportunity he couldn't pass up. His manager was disappointed but understanding. Davis was ecstatic. About damn time you got out of that dead-end place, Davis said over drinks the Friday before Daniel's departure. They were at a sports bar in Charlotte, watching a college basketball game on the screens. And Chloe has no clue? None, Daniel confirmed. The divorce will be final right before Christmas. By then, I'll be established at TechStream, and she'll have moved on with her life. With that Travis guy? Probably, Daniel said, though the thought still stung more than he wanted to admit. 17 years of marriage didn't evaporate just because your spouse decided you weren't good enough anymore. Davis took a long drink of his beer. You know Highland is going to come after Streamline AI once they realize what it is, right? They're desperate for this exact solution. Let them try, Daniel replied. The patent's ironclad. Jennifer made sure of that. What Daniel didn't say, what he was keeping close to his chest, was that he'd already anticipated Highland Tech Solutions' interest. He'd set something in motion that would force Chloe's hand in ways she couldn't possibly see coming. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel if you have not, because the ending of this story will blow your mind. And drop a comment below telling me what you think Daniel should do next. Nancy spent Thanksgiving with Chloe at the downtown apartment. Daniel had his daughter for the weekend after, taking her to a Tar Heels basketball game in Chapel Hill and dinner at her favorite Italian restaurant. She seemed happier, more relaxed than she'd been in weeks. Mom's stressed, Nancy confided over pasta carbonara. She's working like crazy. Some big project at Highland that she promised the board she'd deliver on. Daniel kept his expression neutral. Yeah? What kind of project? Something about analytics or data or something boring like that, Nancy said with the typical teenage dismissiveness. She's been interviewing vendors, but nothing's working out. She keeps saying the solutions are either too expensive or not sophisticated enough. Daniel felt a twist of satisfaction in his chest. Chloe was looking for Streamline AI without knowing it existed. She was searching for a solution that her mediocre ex-husband had already created. I'm sure she'll figure it out, Daniel said mildly. Your mom's smart. Yeah, but she's also kind of mean lately, Nancy said, surprising him with her bluntness. She's always snapping at people. And Travis is around all the time now. I don't really like him. Why not? Nancy shrugged. He's fake. Like he's always super nice when mom's around, but when she leaves the room, he barely acknowledges I exist. And he talks about money constantly, how much things cost, what brands are acceptable, that kind of stuff. Daniel felt a protective surge. Does he treat you badly? No, not badly. Just like I'm furniture or something. Like I'm part of the apartment that comes with dating mom. Nancy pushed her pasta around her plate. Can I ask you something, Dad? Anything. Why didn't you fight for her? For the marriage? The question hung in the air between them. Daniel chose his words carefully. Because you can't make someone love you, Nancy. Your mom made her choice. Fighting would have just made everyone miserable for longer. But don't you still love her? Daniel thought about that. Did he? Or did he just love the memory of who Chloe used to be? I love the woman I married, he said finally, but I don't think that woman exists anymore. Daniel's transition to TechStream Innovations was smooth. His new office in Atlanta was spacious, with a view of the city. His team consisted of 12 developers and analysts, all eager to work with Streamline AI. Mark Doherty gave him significant autonomy, trusting Daniel's vision for the product. Within the first week, Daniel had Streamline AI integrated into TechStream's client demonstration systems. The results were immediate and dramatic. Clients who'd been considering Highland Tech solutions were suddenly switching their interest to TechStream. The software was that good. By the second week of December, Highland's sales team was panicking. Chloe was fielding angry calls from her board members, demanding to know why they were losing market share. Daniel knew this because Mark kept him informed. TechStream's sales team was hearing the complaints from clients firsthand. Highland's scrambling, Mark told Daniel during a strategy meeting. They're trying to rush a competing product to market, but from what our sources say, it's garbage. Crashes constantly, interface is clunky. Chloe's under serious pressure. Daniel felt no satisfaction in Chloe's stress. Only a quiet certainty that consequences, once set in motion, were inevitable. The call came on December 17th, just 8 days before the divorce would be finalized. Daniel was in his apartment in Atlanta. He'd rented a furnished 2-bedroom in Buckhead while he looked for something permanent, when his phone rang. Unknown number, but a Charlotte area code. He answered. "Hello? Daniel, it's Chloe." He hadn't heard her voice in weeks, not since the day she'd handed him the divorce papers. She sounded tired, strained. "Chloe, what do you need?" She paused. "I wanted to talk to you about something work-related. I heard you left Morrison Marketing." "I did. Can I ask where you went?" Daniel smiled, though she couldn't see it. "I took a position in analytics." "Why?" "Because Highland is looking for someone with your background. We need to overhaul our analytics division. And I thought, well, given your experience in marketing data, you might be interested." The audacity was breathtaking. She'd divorced him, called him mediocre, and now she wanted to hire him because she was desperate. "I appreciate the offer," Daniel said evenly, "but I'm very happy in my current position." "Can I ask where you're working?" "I'd prefer not to say. We haven't even finalized the divorce yet, Chloe." There was a long pause. "Daniel, I need someone who understands complex data systems. Highland is in a tough spot right now, and I could really use your help." "You should have thought of that before you served me divorce papers," Daniel replied, his voice cool. "Good luck with your search." He ended the call. His hands were shaking, but not from anger, from anticipation, because he knew what was coming next. If you're enjoying this story, hit that like button and let me know in the comments what you would have done in Daniel's situation. The next day, TechStream Innovations made a major announcement. They were launching Streamline AI as a standalone product, available for enterprise licensing at a fraction of the cost of Highland's current analytics suite. The press release included demonstrations, testimonials from beta clients, and most importantly, detailed technical specifications. Daniel saw the announcement go live at 9 in the morning. By noon, his phone was ringing constantly. Reporters, industry analysts, former colleagues from Morrison Marketing. Everyone wanted to know where this revolutionary product had come from. Davis called at 1. "Dude, this is insane. Highland's stock price dropped 4% in the first hour of trading. Chloe must be losing her mind." "Probably," Daniel agreed. "She's going to figure out you're behind Streamline AI." "Eventually, yes. And when she does, then she'll understand exactly what she walked away from." The reckoning came 3 days later. Daniel was in his Atlanta office when his assistant buzzed him. "Mr. Matthews, there's a Chloe Matthews online too. She says it's urgent." Daniel stared at the blinking light on his phone. This was it. The moment when everything he'd built, everything he'd protected, would become undeniably real to Chloe. He picked up. "Hello, Chloe." "You son of a bitch." Her voice was shaking with fury. "Streamline AI. You created Streamline AI." "Yes." "You've been working on it for how long? Years? While you were married to me?" 5 years, Daniel said calmly. "On my own time, with my own resources." "You never asked what I did with my evenings, Chloe. You were too busy with your career." "This is marital property, Daniel. I have rights to—" "No, you don't," Daniel interrupted. "I've already checked with 3 different attorneys. Streamline AI was developed entirely by me, patented in my name, before any divorce proceedings. You signed away claims to my intellectual property in the initial agreement. You have zero legal standing. The silence on the other end was deafening. Do you know what you've done? Chloe's voice was quieter now, but no less intense. Highland's board is furious. We promised them a solution, and now our biggest competitor is rolling out exactly what we need. I could lose my job over this. That's not my problem, Daniel said. You made your choices. These are the consequences. I never thought you'd... She stopped. I underestimated you. Yes, Daniel agreed. You did. You called me mediocre, Chloe. You walked away from our marriage because you thought I was beneath you, beneath your new lifestyle. You never once asked what I was working on, what I was building. You just assumed I had nothing to offer. Daniel, please, can we talk about this? Maybe TechStream would consider licensing to Highland or... No, Daniel said firmly. Mark Doherty has exclusive rights to Streamline AI for enterprise clients. That contract is signed and ironclad. Highland isn't getting this technology, Chloe, and neither are you. He could hear her breathing on the other end, rapid and shallow. You did this to hurt me. No, Daniel corrected. I did this to protect myself and build a future. The fact that it's inconvenient for you is just karma. Christmas came and went. The divorce was finalized on December 23rd. Daniel spent Christmas Day with Nancy and Charlotte, giving her gifts he'd carefully chosen, a new laptop for school, concert tickets to see her favorite band, a necklace that had belonged to his mother. Nancy hugged him tightly. Mom said she made a mistake, she whispered, about the divorce. Daniel pulled back, looking at his daughter's face. What do you mean? She said she didn't realize how much you contributed, that she thought she was doing everything herself, but now she sees she wasn't. Nancy's eyes were troubled. She's been crying a lot lately. Travis left her, by the way. He did? Yeah. Apparently once the whole Streamline AI thing went public and Highland's stock dropped, he decided Mom wasn't such a great catch anymore. Moved back to California or somewhere. Nancy made a disgusted sound. He was always a jerk. Daniel felt a complex mix of emotions, satisfaction that Travis had revealed his true colors, pity for Chloe, despite everything, and a lingering sadness for what their marriage had been. Your mom is strong, Daniel told Nancy. She'll bounce back. Will you guys ever, Nancy trailed off. Get back together? Daniel finished gently. No, sweetheart. Too much has happened. But your mom and I will always be your parents. That doesn't change. The new year brought new developments. Highland Tech Solutions announced in January that they were restructuring their analytics division. Chloe remained CEO, but barely. The board had given her a 3-month deadline to stabilize the company's market position or face termination. TechStream, meanwhile, was thriving. Streamline AI had secured 15 major contracts in its first month, generating over $40 million in licensing revenue. Daniel's performance bonuses kicked in, adding another $100,000 to his annual compensation. He bought a house in Atlanta, a modest but beautiful craftsman-style home in Virginia Highland with a yard and a neighborhood feel. Nancy visited every other weekend, transforming the spare bedroom into her Atlanta sanctuary. She thrived in the new arrangement, enjoying 2 homes, 2 cities, and a father who was finally building the life he deserved. February brought the board meeting that would determine Chloe's fate at Highland Tech Solutions. Daniel learned about it from an unlikely source, Trevor Northfield, Highland's former vice president of operations, who'd been pushed out in Chloe's restructuring and had subsequently joined TechStream. The board's done with her, Trevor told Daniel over coffee in TechStream's executive lounge. She can't deliver on any of her promises. Streamline AI destroyed their competitive advantage, and now they're bleeding clients to us. The vote is scheduled for February 28th. Daniel felt a pang of something he couldn't quite name. Not quite guilt, not quite regret. She brought this on herself, he said, more to himself than to Trevor. Oh, absolutely, Trevor agreed. Chloe was always brilliant but ruthless. She stepped on a lot of people climbing that ladder, but still it's a pretty spectacular fall from grace. That evening, Daniel received an unexpected text from Chloe. Can we meet, please, for Nancy's sake? He stared at the message for a long time. Nancy had mentioned that Chloe was struggling, that the pressure was immense. Part of him wanted to ignore the text, to let Chloe face the consequences of her actions alone. But another part, the part that had loved her for 17 years, couldn't quite do that. He replied, "Tomorrow, 3 p.m., the coffee shop near Nancy's school." Chloe arrived at Bean Theory looking nothing like the confident CEO who'd handed him divorce papers 3 months ago. She'd lost weight, her face was drawn, and there were shadows under her eyes that spoke of too many sleepless nights. She wore jeans and a simple sweater, casual clothes Daniel hadn't seen her in for years. "Thank you for meeting me," she said, sitting down across from him, her hands wrapped around a coffee cup like she needed the warmth. Daniel said nothing, just waited. "I'm not here to beg for Streamline AI," Chloe said. "I know that ship has sailed. I'm here because I owe you an apology, a real one." "Chloe, please let me say this." She took a deep breath. "I was horrible to you, cruel. I convinced myself that your support didn't matter, that my success was all mine. I called you mediocre when the truth was that I couldn't have achieved anything without your sacrifices." Daniel felt his chest tighten. "Then why did you do it? Why throw away 17 years? "Because I was scared," Chloe admitted, her voice breaking slightly. "When I became CEO, I looked around at all these powerful people with powerful partners, and I thought I needed someone different, someone who looked successful on paper. I thought Travis represented the life I was supposed to have. So you threw me away like I was nothing." "Yes." A tear rolled down her cheek. "And it was the biggest mistake of my life. Travis left the moment things got difficult. He was never interested in me, just my position, my connections, what I could do for his career. You gave me 17 years of genuine support, and I repaid you with betrayal." Daniel studied her face, looking for manipulation, for strategy, but all he saw was genuine regret. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because Nancy deserves parents who can at least be civil to each other, and because you deserve to hear it, even if it's too late." Chloe wiped her eyes. "The board is voting me out next week. I'll probably take a severance package and figure out what comes next. Maybe it's for the best. I've been so focused on climbing that I forgot what actually matters." "Nancy," Daniel said. "Nancy," Chloe agreed. "And having people in your life who care about you as a person, not as a position or a paycheck." They sat in silence for a moment. Daniel could feel anger warring with compassion inside him. Chloe had hurt him deeply, had shattered their family out of arrogance and poor judgment. But she was also the mother of his daughter, and she was genuinely suffering the consequences of her choices. "I forgive you," Daniel said finally, "not because what you did was okay, but because carrying anger around is exhausting, and Nancy needs us to move forward." Chloe's shoulders sagged with relief. "Thank you. But Chloe, we're not getting back together. That door's closed." "I know," she said quietly. "I killed that possibility when I filed those papers. I just hope that someday we can be friends. For Nancy." "Someday," Daniel agreed. "Maybe." The Highland Tech Solutions board meeting happened exactly as Trevor had predicted. Chloe was offered a generous severance package, 2 years' salary, roughly $1.2 million, in exchange for her resignation. She accepted without protest. The board appointed an interim CEO and began the search for permanent leadership. The news made headlines in the business world. Highland Tech Solutions CEO steps down amid analytics crisis. Chloe was portrayed as a casualty of market disruption, someone who'd failed to anticipate the competitive threat posed by Streamline AI. Some articles were sympathetic, others were scathing. All of them agreed that Highland was in serious trouble. Daniel read the coverage with mixed feelings. There was satisfaction in seeing Chloe face tangible consequences for her choices. But there was also sadness at the waste of it all. 17 years of marriage, a family fractured, careers upended, all because Chloe had convinced herself that success meant abandoning the people who'd helped her achieve it. Nancy took the news hard. She spent a long weekend with Daniel in Atlanta, mostly lying on the couch eating ice cream and watching old movies. On Sunday evening, as they prepared dinner together in his kitchen, she finally spoke about what was bothering her. "Do you think Mom learned anything from all this?" Nancy asked, chopping vegetables for a salad. Daniel considered the question carefully. "I think she's learning. Whether the lessons stick depends on her. She asked me the other day if I thought you'd ever take her back. Daniel's hands stilled on the chicken he was seasoning. What did you tell her? That she'd have to ask you herself, but probably not. Nancy looked up at him. That was the right answer, wasn't it? I mean, I love Mom, but what she did to you was really messed up. It was messed up, Daniel agreed. But here's the thing, Nancy. Your mom is going through a transformation right now. She's losing everything she thought defined her. The job, the status, the relationship. Sometimes people need to lose everything before they can figure out who they really are. Do you think she'll be okay? Eventually, yes. Your mom is tough and smart. She'll figure it out. But she has to do it on her own. I can't and won't rescue her from the consequences of her choices. Nancy nodded slowly. That's fair. I just wish things had been different. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. Spring brought unexpected developments. Chloe took a position as Chief Operating Officer at a mid-sized technology firm in Raleigh, North Carolina, United States. A significant step down from CEO of Highland, but still a respectable role. More importantly, she'd started therapy and was genuinely working on herself. Nancy reported that her mother was more present, more humble, more willing to acknowledge her mistakes. Daniel's life had stabilized as well. Streamline AI continued to exceed expectations, making TechStream the dominant player in the analytics market. His team was expanding, and Mark was discussing promoting him to Vice President of Innovation. He'd started dating casually. Nothing serious, just reminding himself that he was still capable of connecting with someone new. One afternoon in April, Daniel received a call from Jennifer Walsh, his patent attorney. Daniel, you're not going to believe this. Highland Tech Solutions wants to license Streamline AI. Daniel nearly dropped his phone. What? They submitted a formal request through their new CEO. They're willing to pay premium licensing fees, about 3 times the standard rate, plus a public statement acknowledging Streamline AI as the industry-leading solution. Daniel leaned back in his office chair, processing this information. Highland, the company that had employed Chloe, that had pushed her to deliver the exact solution Daniel had created, was now coming to him hat in hand. What does Mark think? Daniel asked. He's leaving it up to you. Technically, you have final say on any licensing deals related to Streamline AI. That was in your contract. Daniel thought about it. Highland was a competitor, yes, but they were also struggling, restructuring, trying to rebuild. Denying them the license would be vindictive. It would be doing to them what Chloe had done to him, using power to diminish someone else. Tell them yes, Daniel said. Standard enterprise rate, not premium, and no public statement required. Just yes. Jennifer was quiet for a moment. That's generous of you. It's strategic, Daniel corrected. If Highland licenses Streamline AI, it strengthens the product's market position and brings in additional revenue. Plus, it shows that TechStream is willing to work with competitors when it makes business sense. Everyone wins. Except that wasn't the whole truth. The whole truth was that Daniel was tired of revenge, tired of consequences, tired of the whole cycle of hurt and retaliation. He'd gotten his justice, his financial security, his career success, his self-respect. Adding more suffering to the pile wouldn't make him any happier. The licensing agreement was finalized in May. Highland Tech Solutions became a Streamline AI client, and their analytics capabilities immediately improved. Their stock price stabilized. The company began recovering. Chloe sent Daniel a text when the news went public. Thank you for agreeing to license to Highland. You didn't have to do that. He replied simply, business is business. Hope you're doing well. She responded with a heart emoji, and Daniel found himself smiling at the simplicity of it. They weren't friends, exactly, but they'd reached a place of mutual understanding, of peace, for Nancy's sake and for their own. June brought Nancy's 16th birthday. Daniel and Chloe co-hosted a party at Daniel's Atlanta house, the first time they'd worked together on something since the divorce. It was awkward at first, too much history, too many memories. But by the end of the evening, watching Nancy laugh with her friends in the backyard, they'd found a rhythm. You've done well with this place, Chloe commented, standing beside Daniel on the deck. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Thank you. And with your career, Streamline AI is brilliant, Daniel. I mean that. He looked at her. She seemed different somehow, softer, more grounded. The hard edges that had defined her during those final months of their marriage had smoothed out. You seem better, calmer. Therapy helps, Chloe admitted. Turns out when you spend your whole life chasing external validation, you become a pretty miserable person. I'm working on finding value from within instead. That's good, I'm glad. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching Nancy blow out candles on her birthday cake. Her face was radiant with joy. I really am sorry, Daniel, Chloe said quietly, for all of it. I know I've said it before, but I want you to know I mean it. I know you do, Daniel replied. And I've forgiven you. But Chloe, forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. We're Nancy's parents. We can be civil, maybe even friendly, but we're not getting back together. I understand. She paused. Can I ask what you learned from all this? Daniel considered the question. I learned that supporting someone shouldn't mean losing yourself, that your worth isn't determined by what someone else thinks of you, and that revenge isn't nearly as satisfying as building something meaningful on your own terms. Chloe nodded slowly. I learned that success without integrity is just a different kind of failure, and that the people who support you when you have nothing are worth more than any corner office. A year after their divorce, Daniel stood on the stage of a technology conference in San Francisco, California, United States, accepting an innovation award for Streamline AI. The product had transformed the analytics industry, and TechStream had become one of the fastest-growing companies in the sector. He'd been promoted to vice president, he had a team of 40 people, and he was genuinely happy. Nancy sat in the front row, beaming with pride. Chloe sat beside her. She'd flown out to California specifically to watch Daniel receive the award. When he mentioned her during his acceptance speech, thanking her for teaching him resilience through adversity, she smiled through tears. That evening at a celebratory dinner with Nancy, Chloe, Mark Doherty, and the TechStream executive team, Daniel reflected on the journey. He'd lost a marriage but gained self-respect. He'd been called mediocre, but proved his worth. He'd been betrayed but chose not to let bitterness define him. Dad, Nancy said, raising a glass of sparkling cider, I want to make a toast to my father, who showed me that the best revenge is living well and being kind even when people don't deserve it. Everyone raised their glasses. Daniel caught Chloe's eye across the table. She mouthed, "Thank you," and he nodded in return. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's letting people face the consequences of their own actions while you build something better. Daniel learned that true success isn't measured by someone else's approval, but by your own integrity in the people who matter most. He discovered that holding on to anger only weighs you down, while letting go, forgiving without forgetting, sets you free to create the life you deserve. Chloe lost everything she thought defined her, only to discover that humility and genuine connection matter more than any title or salary. Sometimes you have to fall before you can learn to stand on solid ground. And Nancy learned the most valuable lesson of all, that real love isn't about perfection, but about showing up with grace even when it's hard. If you enjoyed this story, like this video, and leave a comment telling me what you thought. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to get alerts for new stories like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.